Yo, happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome into the show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report, and we're live right here on Chat Sports. It is Wednesday, January 15th of 2025. My name is Chase Sr., and of course, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, as always, greatly appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day. And on the docket, we're going to discuss the latest Niners offseason news and rumors. Offseason officially underway and what is going to be a massive offseason for San Francisco. So, of course, on today's show, so much to talk about. And I've been talking about this over the last couple of weeks. This really could be the biggest offseason for this Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch regime, considering how bad they were in 2024, how disappointing of a season it was, 6-11, some of the decisions that await, some of the decisions in the coaching staff that have already been made, and what the Niners need to do to get back to being a playoff team. On today's show, we're going to go through the latest offseason buzz. We're going to take a look at the top 10 or so free agents at every single position. Players who San Francisco could sign this offseason. We're going to play stay or go with the Niners free agents who are set to hit the open market. Going to do a Niners mock draft roundup, and then we'll round out with the mailbag. Get those questions in starting right now. It's not too early. Use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. Almost 200 people watching live. That means that a lot of you have your notifications on. So greatly appreciate that. That means that you're a real one. Be sure to hit that bell icon if you haven't already done so. Therefore, anytime we push out a show, anytime we go live, you will be notified. Where are you watching from? That's what I want to know, because we're coming to you from Studio H in the Chat Sports Studios. Prime said hello. John Savage is in Indiana. Julian is in Utah. Gina G putting the positivity into the chat, saying happy Wednesday, faithful. Louisville, Kentucky from Matt. Steve is in San Jose. Ernesto, Tucson, Arizona. Hyde Park from Brent. Dalton, Georgia from Cerebral Assassin. Reno, Nevada from Mr. Blaze. Armando is in Dallas, Texas. Tayron Jones, Richmond, Virginia. And Cafe Realm is in Illinois. Continue to let us know where you are. I'm looking to see if we have anybody watching internationally yet. Charleston, Arizona, Moval, California. Melanie Gray saying Chase is the best. You know what, Melanie? You're the best. Not me, you. Joji is in Japan. So we go international for the first time here today, as this is a YouTube channel covering the Niners that's approaching 155,000 subs. And we have people who rock with us from every pocket of America and worldwide. Our sponsor for today's show, our friends at Game Time. If you want to go to a sporting event, concert, comedy show, theater event, and a whole lot more, you get the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. Prices drop as the event gets closer. Right now, when you download the Game Time app, you create an account, you use the code CHATSPORTS, you get $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Our other sponsor that you'll be hearing us talk about here today, our friends at Prize Picks, best daily fantasy sports app in the game, more than 10 million active members, billions of dollars handed out in awarded winnings, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money if you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. And right now, when you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So Game Time, Prize Picks are two sponsors for today's show. I do want to gauge where everybody is at here, and I want to know what your level of confidence is in the 49ers this offseason. Scale it for me from 1 to 100. 1, not confident at all. 100, very confident. And I'm going to make that the poll question in the chat, but 1 to 100, start putting those numbers into the comment section right now. Let's see.
I'm seeing some 60s, some 80s, Brent going 70, Julian 75, Eric Brown 1, yikes. Dennis 100, Raymond Torres 114, so feeling real good.
All right.
Cerebral 85, Steve 85. Okay, a mixed bag here.
Shane Kirshner a 90. Yeah, I was expecting a little bit of a mixed bag, and now you see that poll question pinned in the chat. As for Robert Saleh, a lot of updates here over the last couple of days, and really over the last few weeks. As soon as he was fired by the New York Jets, I said Kyle Shanahan and the Niners need to bring him back if they have the opportunity to do that. Has a couple of interviews this week. He had one with the Jacksonville Jaguars, said to have a lot of fans inside that building. He was a linebackers coach under Gus Bradley from 2014 to 2016, and then from 2017 to 2020, he was the Niners defensive coordinator. After that, became the head coach of the Jets before he was fired earlier this year. So he interviewed with Jacksonville. A lot of people within that organization do like him. He is set to interview with the Las Vegas Raiders on Thursday as they look for a new head coach. There's some buzz that in their search for their Antonio Pierce replacement, that maybe Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson could gain some traction there to be their next head coach. But with Saleh, there was this today, which came out from Ian Rappaport, that the Dallas Cowboys have interest in and are expected to interview former Jets coach Robert Saleh for the vacant head coaching spot. They elected to not give Mike McCarthy a new contract. And for Dallas, this is notable because this would be their first known request. So the Niners obviously want to bring back Robert Saleh as their defensive coordinator, but they are going to have a lot of competition for his services. Other teams interested in maybe hiring him as a head coach, and then other teams, of course, being interested in hiring him as a defensive coordinator. Today, here's our Super Chat battle, all right? We're going to pit ourselves up against some rival channels here at Chat Sports. Seahawks today got $150 earlier this week in Super Chats. Cowboys Report did $205 when they fired Mike McCarthy. The goal for today's 49ers Report, can we beat it? And if we do, we get a big fat dub inside the Chat Sports studios. Are going to be doing a mailbag. Last segment, use the hashtag 49ers or send in a Super Chat. We, of course, want to hear from you. If you have a question, you have a take, you have some analysis, you have a strong opinion, use the hashtag 49ers or send in a Super Chat to be a part of our mailbag. And if you're ready to talk some Niners right now, bang, bang, hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. More than 200 people watching live. We should be able to get to 100 likes in the next 30 seconds. So if you're ready for the official show to start, I need you to smash that thumbs up icon and like the video. It's myself, Chase Sr., producer Chip, bringing you some great content live here on the show, and we're about to get it all underway. So sit back, relax, hang out here with us on the Niners Report, and let's start the show right now. All right, here we go. We're off and running. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr., and no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. And coming up, want to look ahead toward the offseason for San Francisco. In particular, look at some of the top free agent targets for this football team. And we're going to take a look at the top 7 to 10 players at every position to see who San Francisco could add to bolster this roster for next season. And I want to start with this because this really does set the foundation and set the table for the conversation that we're going to have today. It's a look at the Niners' cap and draft situation. San Francisco currently has $46.5 million in cap space going into the offseason. That ranks 13th in the NFL. They were number 1 in carried over cap space from 2024 to 2025. That's a big reason why the Niners are just ahead of the middle of the pack as far as cap dollars among 32 teams in the NFL. And then San Francisco, with the 11th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, their highest selection since 2021 when they traded up for Trey Lance. And they have an opportunity here to get a real impact player at that spot to address a position of need. As for those needs, here are my main Niners offseason needs. They can address this in free agency and in the NFL Draft. You have the draft coming up in April, free agency before that in March, right tackle, center, guard, defensive end, defensive tackle. Those are the 5 most glaring needs for this team that I think they really need to address this offseason. And then some depth needs on this football team. I really like the future cornerback tandem of Diamador Lenore and Renardo Green, But everybody else in that cornerback room, pretty much, outside of like Darrell Luter Jr., is going to be a free agent. And so you need more depth there, especially in the slot, although Demo can play inside and outside because of his great versatility. Linebacker, we'll see what happens with Dre Greenlaw, but the lack of solid linebacking play after Fred Warner hurt this team at that second level. Can D. Winters take that leap? He could. Is Dre Greenlaw going to come back? That is a possibility, depending on how much money he gets in free agency, but you need to replenish the cupboard a little bit at that spot as well. Jair Brown had a disappointing year too. Still a believer in the player. I think if the Niners get that defensive coordinator spot right, he could return to the form that we saw as a rookie, really like Malik Mustafa. George Odom, he's a special teamer. Could be a cap casualty to save some money, and you don't want to play in that safety spot. So you have Malik Mustafa there for sure. What happens with Talanoa Hufanga? He's going to be a free agent. And where do you stand on Jair Brown as an organization? So safety becomes a little bit of a need as well. George Kittle going to enter the final year of his contract in 2025. I would personally sign him to a contract extension. But can we please get tight end 2 right? Because this football team and organization hasn't been able to do that in a long time. And then backup quarterback, another wide receiver, running back. Those are depth needs as well. So let's begin by taking a look at the top free agent quarterbacks here. Sam Darnold is going to start somewhere. I don't think that Russell Wilson is going to go back to Pittsburgh after they lost 5 games in a row to end the season. Daniel Jones needs to rehab. I don't think he's going to be a starter in 2025. He was awful for the Giants in 2024, and after signing that $40 million per year contract, they didn't want him any longer shortly thereafter. Mac Jones, think he's a backup. I know Kyle Shanahan liked him in the pre-draft. I haven't seen anything really outside of his rookie year when he was a Pro Bowler, and I just think he's too slow-footed, doesn't have a strong enough arm. Jameis Winston, a good backup, but turns the ball over at an alarming rate. And then you flip the page, there's Justin Fields, who I think might be the starter for the Steelers in 2025. Marcus Mariota, a good backup behind Jaden Daniels. Wouldn't be surprised if he goes back to the nation's capital. Mason Rudolph, Jacoby Brissett, and Zach Wilson, rounding out the list of the top 10 free agent quarterbacks. My choice is Zach Wilson. I really think San Francisco should sign Zach Wilson and give him an opportunity to resurrect his career. And I still think he has a lot of ability. I would contemplate signing him to a multi-year deal, depending on what the Niners' plans are in the NFL draft. Still only 25 years old, good size at 6'2", 214, has a laser for an arm, really athletic with mobility, can extend plays with his feet to throw it downfield, but also he can use his legs as a runner. He went to Sean Payton School with the Denver Broncos this year, and Sean Payton raved about him before the year and said, I really think that he can be a good quarterback. Look at what Sean Payton did with Bo Nix. And it's pretty telling to me that Sean Payton wanted to trade for Zach Wilson. Now, when Wilson was coming out of BYU, he also grew up in Utah. I hated the fit of him going from Utah Mormon country to New York City. It is a massive change in culture, and the pressure was on him. I don't think he dealt with it well. But the San Francisco media market is not the same as New York City. Northern California, completely different lifestyle as compared to the Northeast, where it's tough, rugged, fast, and crazy, and there's a lot of pressure. The Niners also rehab Sam Darnold. I think they can do the same with Zach Wilson. And for Wilson, I think he looks at the Niners situation as enticing. Pair up with Brian Griese, Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy, good quarterback room. Purdy has injury concerns, so if he goes down, you have confidence that if you develop Zach Wilson, the ceiling for him is so much higher than a Joshua Dobbs or a Brandon Allen. And look at what happened this year with Baker Mayfield last year. And Baker Mayfield this year was great. Baker, Sam Darnold, Bryce Young, they all had rebound seasons when everybody thought they were busts. It goes to show you that sometimes it takes time for these quarterbacks to get on track. And I think Zach Wilson can become a player in this league. Top free agent wide receivers: T. Higgins, Chris Godwin, Marquise Brown, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins, Josh Palmer, Stephon Diggs, Deontay Johnson, and Elijah Moore. Deontay Johnson's been on 4 teams this year. He's a straight-up cancer. Obviously, some big names on that list. I don't think San Francisco is going to go wide receiver hunting for any of those names. And what I would do, I wouldn't sign a wide receiver. I would think about drafting one, get a young developmental player in here, knowing that Deebo Samuel's entering the final year of his contract. But Ricky Pearsall, the last 2 games, impressed me. I think Jacob Cowing has some juice, and I think that he can be a weapon for this offense in 2025. I just think Pearsall and Cowing need more opportunities, and I want to give them runway to see what they're able to do and not block their development with free agent wide receivers. Top free agent tight ends. Been talking about how the Niners need to get tight end 2 right behind George Kittle. It would be great to see some more 12 personnel. Juwan Johnson, Mike Gesicki, Zach Ertz, Tommy Tremble, Tyler Conklin, the most notable free agents. Some of those guys, pass catchers like Gesicki who can't block, but a player like Tremble, he can catch it and he can block it. He could be a pretty attractive option for San Francisco. And then there's Kylan Granson, Hunter Long, Johnny Munt, Mo Alley Cox, who's a freak athlete, and Harrison Bryant. So that next 5 wave of tight ends, not really going to move the needle for you. What I would do, and we'll see what the Niners do with George Kittle entering the final year of his contract in 2025, I would give him a contract extension, but I would get younger at tight end. I'd think about drafting one in the mid to late rounds. It's a pretty solid tight end class. I'm also intrigued by what Mason Plant could do as a former basketball player who was a practice squad player for the Niners in year 1. Top free agent running backs. Aaron Jones, Rico Dowdle had a career year for the Dallas Cowboys. J.K. Dobbins has been hurt so much, but when he was on the field for the Chargers, their offense was much better. Najee Harris has some NorCal ties, but salary-wise and scheme fit, he's not going to come to San Francisco, although a lot of you living in Northern California would like to see that homecoming. Cam Akers, injury and production concerns. Javonte Williams, early in his career coming out of North Carolina, looked to be the next great running back for the Denver Broncos, and then hurt his knee year 2. That was very unfortunate. Khalil Herbert, not a bad Swiss Army knife type of running back, not good in pass protection, though. Kyle Shanahan values that. There's Ty Johnson, Kareem Hunt, who's old and will probably sign with the team in Week 9, probably the Chiefs when there's some injuries to that running back spot. And then there's Elijah Mitchell, who is made of glass, and I'm just not bringing back. Really good rookie year, but he's literally been injured every year he's been in the NFL, and he can't make the club from the tub. This running back draft class is absolutely loaded. And that's even with Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, the 2 Penn State running backs, returning to Happy Valley to play for Penn State in 2025. Even when you take those 2 running backs out of the equation from this draft class, there are so many good running backs. Cam Skattebo in the 2nd or 3rd round, that could be a pick that I'd be really intrigued by for San Francisco. He can play running back. You can play a little fullback. You can use him as a weapon. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Do you go running back that early? Kind of goes against my team-building strategy, but I always love some offensive weapons. Top free agent offensive tackles. We'll see what happens with Colton McKivitz. He has 1 more year left on his deal, but it's non-guaranteed. Trent Williams, I think, is going to come back because the Niners signed him to that renewed deal during training camp after he held out. There's Dan Moore, Ronnie Staley, who had a really good year for Baltimore. I think he's going to get a bag. Alaric Jackson, Cam Robinson, who got traded from the Jags to Minnesota, Cornelius Lucas, Jedrick Wills, Jalen Moore, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, and Joe Nopu. Jalen Moore played very well in place of Trent Williams this year once he went out. I think Tyron Smith could retire. He's probably the best resume player on this list because he's probably going to make it to the Hall of Fame. And how about what Jalen Moore was able to do? I mean, we know that the Niners have been starved for offensive tackle talent, or at least fans have been wanting the Niners to be starved for offensive tackle talent because the offensive line hasn't been good enough. But there are so many teams across the NFL who are desperate for better offensive line play. And so they might look at what Jalen Moore did in a pretty decent sample size, stepping in for Trent Williams, and they might say, we're going to give Jalen Moore a bag. A young player who is the pupil of Trent Williams, we think that he could become something. He was good for San Francisco down the stretch. And then we go to the interior offensive line, the top free agent offensive guards. Trey Smith could become the highest paid guard in the history of the NFL to protect Patrick Mahomes. There's Kevin Zeitler, lone year in Detroit. He was fantastic. Brandon Scherf of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Patrick McCarry of the Baltimore Ravens. Tevin Jenkins, good player when healthy. The issue is, can never stay healthy. Mekhi Becton was a failed offensive tackle with the Jets. He goes to the Eagles, and at right guard, he was phenomenal this season. Zach Martin might retire because of ankle-foot issues. Dalton Reisner, longtime veteran whose best days are behind him. There's Ben Bredesen of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then Aaron Banks, another player making it inside the top 10 for his respective position. I would not bring Aaron Banks back. I'm looking at some projections over the last couple of days, and Aaron Banks is projected to get $8 to $10 million per year. One, I don't think he's worth that. Two, I don't think he's good enough to be paid that. And three, draft a left guard, and I think that left guard could be better. Work off the momentum of what you were able to build with Dominic Pooney, get a better left guard, get a better right tackle and center, and this Niners offensive line could be rebuilt overnight. Which brings me to center. I'd be willing to pay some money here, and Kyle Shanahan has shown that he's willing to invest in free agency in a center. He understands it's such a marquee position for his football roster. Drew Dahlman, fantastic player for the Atlanta Falcons. There's Ryan Kelly, Austin Corbett, Coleman Shelton, Bradley Bozeman, Josh Myers, who got hurt against Philadelphia, and then Brady Christensen. If you think back a few years ago, to what Kyle Shanahan and the Niners did with Weston Richburg, that's the investment that I was talking about that Shanahan was willing to make in a center. They signed Weston Richburg to a 5-year, $47.5 million contract in 2018. He only lasted a couple of years with the Niners because he retired due to injuries, but Drew Dahlman, excellent player, scheme fit, could make an immediate impact, could shore up the interior of this offensive line, does a good job of climbing to the next level. The Atlanta Falcons just ran a Sean McVay offense that fits what Kyle Shanahan wants to do, and this is a player that I would be willing to pay in NFL free agency. Only getting started here on today's show. That was only the offensive side of the ball. We're about to go to the defense. Which offensive free agent, though, do you want the Niners to sign? Let me know down in the comments section right now. Our sponsor for today's show, our friends at Game Time. If you want to experience an NFL playoff atmosphere this weekend for the divisional round, depending on where you live, download the Game Time app. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. They have flash deals, zone deals. The more that you wait until the start of the event, the more that prices drop because prices decrease as the event gets closer. Thanks to Game Time picks, curation makes it easier to find the best seats to the events that you want to go to. You don't have to go through thousands and thousands of tickets. Game Time just gives you the best tickets. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. You can easily resell your tickets as well. And it's not just an app for sporting events. You can go to concerts, comedy shows, theater events, and a whole lot more. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. To the defensive side of the football, the top free agent pass rushers. Josh Sweat of the Philadelphia Eagles, Khalil Mack of the Los Angeles Chargers. He did say that he's going to speak with his family and determine what he wants to do with his football future. He could retire. DeMarcus Lawrence had his season lost due to injury with the Dallas Cowboys, but very productive player throughout his career. Chase Young, not bad this year, but suffered another knee dislocation and injury. Dante Fowler Jr. had double-digit sacks for Washington. Azeez Ojulari is my favorite player on this list because he's young and I think he has untapped potential. There's Malcolm Kuntz of the Las Vegas Raiders, Matthew Judon, older but accomplished player of the Atlanta Falcons. Hassan Reddick cost himself millions and then had one sack for the Jets. Most Jets thing ever. And then Charles Omenihu, the former Niner, who's been injured the last couple of years, but to start off 2023 was very solid. An excellent pickup by this front office a few years ago because he played very well in that defensive tackle, defensive end role. If the Niners were to splurge in free agency here, the player who I would target and my top choice would be Azeez Ojulari. He's young still, draft pedigree out of Georgia, has twitch, has bend. This year before he got hurt, very productive player. Injury is a little bit of a concern. I think the draft is more likely for San Francisco to draft an edge rusher and a defensive tackle, and then you rely on Leonard Floyd, Yeturgos Matos, and Nick Bosa to have really good seasons in 2025. Top free agent defensive tackles. I really like Milton Williams. Here's the issue. The Niners need to get better at stopping the run with their defensive tackles. Milton Williams is a pass rushing defensive tackle. And so I think that he's going to get huge money in free agency. And he's going to be one of the most coveted players, but not for San Francisco because he can't really stop the run. There's Osa Adigizua. There's Javon Hargrave, who the Niners are going to cut with that post-June 1 designation. Javon Kinlaw signed a one-year deal with the Jets. He's once again going to be a free agent. DJ Jones, former Niner, the Denver Broncos, the apple of my eye on this list. BJ Hill, more of a nose tackle. Levi Onwuzurike, Jaron Reed, Benito Jones, and then Calais Campbell, who can play defensive tackle and defensive end. DJ Jones, I would explore bringing him back. You know, he signed like a 3-year, $30 million contract, leaving the Niners after 2021 to sign with Denver. And he's what the Niners have missed and what they need at defensive tackle. Number 2 among defensive tackles in run-stop win rate. And I don't think he's going to get $10 million once again. So that's a name to watch, has familiarity with this organization and system. Top free agent linebacker, Zach Bond, first-team All-Pro alongside Fred Warner. The first year that he's played off-ball linebacker, he was terrific. Great developmental story there. Tyrell Dodson, a solid player. Robert Spillane, not great in coverage, but he can really tackle and give you 100-plus every year. Nick Bolton has been an excellent player for the Kansas City Chiefs, really the backbone of that defense partially outside of Chris Jones. Ernest Jones of Seattle, Jerome Baker of the Tennessee Titans, Jamian Sherwood, New York Jets, Troy Greenlaw coming off that popped Achilles, wasn't able to play much coming off of that injury. Bobby Wagner is just ageless. He played great once again for Washington, a future Hall of Famer there. And then Levante David had 6.5 sacks for Todd Bowles' defense, but more of that linebacker who's a little bit older and not sure he'd come to San Francisco just given his age and stylistic fit. The big question, obviously, when it comes down to linebacker for the Niners, what will San Francisco do with Troy Greenlaw? And how much money is he going to get in free agency? Top free agent cornerbacks. Carlton Davis had a good year after getting traded from the Bucs to the Lions. DJ Reed, a former Niner, who's been a really good corner on the opposite side of Sauce Gardner. Mike Hilton, Cincinnati. Charvarius Ward, I think he leaves in free agency to get more money. Brandon Stevens of the Ravens. Byron Murphy, good player for Minnesota this year under Brian Flores. There's Rasul Douglas, who is a longer physical corner who does a really good job against the pass, but also playing the run. There's Christian Fulton of the Chargers. Asante Samuel Jr. would be a really intriguing slot option for San Francisco. His dad, Asante Samuel Sr., one of the biggest gamblers in the history of football, but an excellent career with the Patriots and the Eagles, picking off a bunch of passes, especially in huge games. Out of the slot, he's missed some time. He's smaller, but I'd like him in there with Diamador Lenore and Renardo Green. And then there's Eric Stokes, a Georgia product for Green Bay. So with Charvarius Ward, I think this ends the road for him in a Niner uniform. One, I think he's going to get too much money. And then after the year, he even said it. When I come back to California, all I think about is my family tragedy. I see road signs. I think about the family tragedy. My wife, she always thinks about the family tragedy. So I think they need a fresh start elsewhere, given everything they've had to deal with losing their 1-year-old daughter a few months ago. And then there's the top free agent safeties here. Justin Reed, Javon Holland, a really good young player. Andre Sisco, Talanoa Hufanga, always around the ball, very instinctual, good feel. We'll see what his market is coming off of a couple of injuries. Jeremy Chin signed a 1-year deal with Washington. He was pretty good on that back end. Julian Blackmon, who would be a scheme fit for San Francisco because he played under Gus Bradley. Cameron Bynum, Trayvon Merrick, Xavier Woods, and Harrison Smith is a veteran who could think about retirement, but if you could get Harrison Smith on a cheap deal and you pair him alongside Malik Mustafa, those are two big hitters, two instinctual players who always find the ball, and Harrison Smith has put together a borderline Hall of Fame career, and if he wants to chase a Super Bowl, he could leave the choke artist Vikings and come to another team that's come up short and choked a lot, but not as much as Minnesota. Which defensive free agent do you like the most? We asked you on offense, we asked you on defense, and now it's up to you to let us know. $10 super chat coming in from Kevin Andrews Photo. Hope this helps beat the Cowboys chat. My one offseason wish, a quick Brock Purdy contract negotiation. I care less about the money and more about not starting the season off like this year. That last point, I agree. You can't have another holdout. You can't have more drama and bad vibes. I think that impacted this season for San Francisco, in addition to the Super Bowl hangover and the heartbreaking nature of it. And so I think that the Niners want to get it done early. I think Brock Purdy wants to get it done early. You can't go into training camp not having your first-string quarterback. That would be organization malpractice right there. And so I'm with you on that, and hopefully it does help to beat the Cowboys chat. Because our Super Chat battle, we're at $10 here on the Niners Report, only one segment in. Plenty of time to beat our rivals. Seahawks today, we got to beat 150. And then Cowboys Report, have to beat 205. Send in a Super Chat, goes a long way in supporting the show. Segment number 4 will be a mailbag, by the way. Use the hashtag 49ers or send in a Super Chat so that we can take your questions live here on air. Going to take a sip of water, and then we're going to continue to keep it moving right here on the show.
Let's get it going, baby. Let's get it going. Nothing like the offseason, man. Nothing like an exciting offseason. 300 people watching. 100 likes. Yes, sir. Let's keep it going.
All right. Let's move it forward. Segment number 2 coming up. Some great coverage here on the show. Just talked about some of the top free agent targets. Coming up next, stay or go for the Niners free agents. Let's dive into that right now. Hey there, welcome into the show. Hope everybody out there is having a great weekend. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. And coming up, stay or go. Which 49ers free agents here during the 2025 offseason, looking ahead toward free agency, should San Francisco sign? And which free agents should they let walk and not pay? Before we do that, if you want Niners free agency coverage, that's the best coverage right here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Approaching 155,000 subs. So lock us in right now so that you can stay in the know with all things Niners every single day, year-round. Let's first take a look at all of the Niners 2025 free agents. And you can pretty much put Javon Hargrave on this list as well, because he is going to be a post-June 1 designation. Not technically a free agent right now, but he will be, given what the Niners did with his contract. So put him into the equation, and then these players also 2025 free agents. Cornerback Charvarius Ward, linebacker Dre Greenlaw, linebacker Devondre Campbell, offensive lineman John Feliciano, quarterback Joshua Dobbs, defensive tackle Kevin Givens, quarterback Brandon Allen, linebacker Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, cornerback Isaac Yadam, left guard Aaron Banks. Next page, defensive tackle Kalia Davis, wide receiver Chris Conley, tight end Eric Saubert, cornerback Rock Ya-Sin, offensive lineman Ben Barch, linebacker Curtis Robinson coming off a torn ACL, left tackle Jalen Moore, and safety Talanoa Hufanga. Final 3, running back Elijah Mitchell, tight end Jake Tonches is an exclusive rights free agent, and then running back Jordan Mason is a restricted free agent. And so let's run through all of these players, and let's play stay or go. With Charvarius Ward, go. I think that he is going to demand not top of the market money at that cornerback spot, but near top of the market money. He was a second team All-Pro in 2023. He had a down year in 2024. He's on the other side of 30, getting a little bit older. But last year, he was one of the top corners in the game, and he was top 5 in pass breakups, passes defended, had a couple of interceptions, a true lockdown corner who has physicality to his game, speed, long arms, and ended up being a really good signing for San Francisco, right around $14 million per year. He played for a lot of his tenure outside of 2024 at like an $18 to $20 million per year level. Again, because he struggled this year, I don't think he gets that much, but I think a team will give him 12, 13, 14, $15 million, and the Niners can't afford that. Noticeable slip in his production this season, down to 7 pass breakups. Missed some time, though, because of that family tragedy when he lost his 1-year-old daughter. He even said it himself. Anytime he comes back to California, he starts to think about the tragic situation that hit his family. So I think him personally and his family, they need a fresh start somewhere else. Troy Greenlaw, stay. Of course, this is going to come down to the price tag, but he is the engine. He is the enforcer of this Niners defense. When he was on the field this year, limited time, against the Rams, you felt and saw his impact right away. When he got injured in the Super Bowl, you felt and saw his loss and how it impacted this Niners defense. Him alongside Fred Warner, one of the top linebacking duos in the NFL. The concern with Greenlaw, how much is he going to demand, and injuries. He's in his late 20s, and even though he came back from that torn Achilles, got hurt again, but prior to 2 straight 100-plus tackle seasons in 2022 and in 2023, he was injured a lot to start his career as well. But no doubt a special player who's part of the lifeline of this Niners organization. Devondre Campbell, don't have to spend much time on him. Been gone. John Feliciano, go. In 2023, a good player who filled in at right guard, left guard. He could play center as well. Just could never get that knee healthy this year. And if you want to bring him back as a depth piece, I'm okay with that. But he also flirted around with maybe retiring, so I'll just go here. Joshua Dobbs, go. And I think this is more of Dobbs wanting to go somewhere else. He's looking at Kyle Shanahan and he's saying, when our season was still alive, you started Brandon Allen over me. I'm going to get some more ample opportunities elsewhere. Kevin Givens. Go for Givens. Been around for a little while. Not a bad backup defensive tackle. Little bit lighter. And the Niners need to get better along the interior, along the trenches. And so I want to upgrade from Kevin Givens. Brandon Allen. Go. Just not good enough as a backup. Weak arm. Was awful against the Packers. I know that Kyle Shanahan values him in the room, but you could do so much better than that with a second or third string quarterback. Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles. I'm going to say stay for him just because the Niners are really putting an emphasis on being a better special teams unit. Kyle Shanahan did what he had to do, did what he should have done. Fired special teams coordinator Brian Schneider. And so he's going to hire a new special teams coordinator. I think that new special teams coordinator is going to look at a player in Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles and say, we want him to be a part of our special teams unit, and he's not going to demand that much money. Isaac Yiadom, huge disappointment this year. You know, he filled in last year for Marshawn Lattimore, and I thought he was awesome with the New Orleans Saints. His Pro Football Focus numbers were very good. He sucked for San Francisco. A player who, when he's confident, plays well. When he loses that confidence, he's not good. Lost that confidence with the Niners, never recaptured it. Aaron Banks, go. In a contract year, I don't care what Chris Forster said. He was not good. And he's going to demand $8 to $10 million per year. Too expensive for a mediocre player who is a big disappointment. So what say you? Which free agents do the Niners need to sign? We're about halfway through that list. We'll get to some more players coming up here just around the corner, but join the conversation down in the comment section right now. Our sponsor for today's show, our friends at Prize Picks. Daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick more or less on players' projected stat lines, and you can win some big-time money. In fact, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. And right now, if you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and you use the code CLNS, when you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks has more than 10 million active members, and they have given out billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Our selections and our lineup that we like for the national championship coming up on Monday: Will Howard, more than a half passing yard; Riley Leonard, less than 167.5 passing yards; Jeremiah Smith, less than 80.5 receiving yards. That's what we're going with. You can tail us if you want. Pick more, pick less. Run your game with Prize Picks. Get $50 when you play 5. All you have to do is go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. We move forward here with our stay or go segment. Clea Davis, I'd like to see him stay. I know he's been injured a lot, but the ability is there. He moves around very well for being 310 pounds, and because of those injuries, you can get him on a vet min deal. Chris Conley, good special teamer. For the same reasons that I talked about with Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, he can be your 6 wide receiver and a good special teamer. And a guy who, if you need to put him in there at that wide receiver spot, he's shown that he can catch footballs when they come his way. Eric Saubert, go. Need to upgrade at that tight end 2 spot. He's been a journeyman for a reason. And when he had his hands on the football this year, he either dropped it or he fumbled it, and he didn't have a good year. Rock Ya-Sin, I'm going to say stay because this is going to be a vet min contract at a position where you're going to need depth. You have Diamador Lenore, Renardo Green, and Darrell Luter Jr. as players at the cornerback spot who are under contract. Outside of that, everybody else is a free agent. And so with Rock Ya-Sin, I'd bring him back, a veteran, former second-round pick, played okay in some opportunities that he was given this year, and I think he's a good veteran to have in that room. Ben Bartch, stay. When he stepped in for Aaron Banks, I was like, can he be this team's left guard? I think he could be. If you want to move on from Aaron Banks and save cash, and you want to try Ben Bartch out there at left guard, I'm down. He's barely making any money, and he could play center too. So positional versatility, pretty important. No sacks allowed in the time that he was on the field before hurting his ankle. Jalen Moore, I'm just going to say go here because I think he gets too much coin. I think there's a team that gives him $10+ million this offseason. Mark my words, because teams are always looking for a good left tackle. Safety Talanoa Hufanga, like Dre Greenlaw, injury problems, but I want him to stay. And hopefully you can bring him back on a team-friendly prove-it deal. He's a player who, when he's on the field, you feel and see his impact like Troy Greenlaw because they're always around the football. You can't coach that up. Elijah Mitchell, go. Made of glass, always injured. Unfortunately for him, has never been able to stay healthy, and it looked as though he was going to have a bright future in year 1. Jake Tonches, go. Just because you need to upgrade at tight end 2, let Mason Pline get some run. Jordan Mason, stay. He is a restricted free agent. So the Niners are going to be able to put the restricted free agency tag on him. Another team might give him a boatload of cash for his standards, and the Niners might not match that deal. And if they don't, he can go somewhere else, but then the Niners get draft compensation. But I'm not confident that Christian McCaffrey is going to be able to stay healthy. Isaac Guerendo's always hurt. Outside of that, who do you have at running back? Really nobody. I don't need to see Patrick Taylor getting carries in a meaningful game. So Jordan Mason, good player, 153 carries, 789 yards. He would have run for 1,000 yards if Kyle Shanahan didn't force feed Christian McCaffrey. And if he didn't get hurt against Buffalo as well. Be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram, by the way, at Chase_Senior. Always talking Niners here and always talking Niners over there. Segment number 2 is down. We look at our Super Chat battle right now. We're trying to beat the Cowboys report and Seahawks today. Earlier this week, those channels getting 150 and 205. Today, can the 49ers report beat those channels? That is our mission, and that is our goal. Recent Commenter Club. I see Spunky Guy, Joji, Great One, John Wallace, Negan, Black Mask. What up, brother? All in the chat right now. Good to see some real ones hanging out.
I like this name from Great One 765. Bayshaw Toon, running back in the draft. I'm pretty sure that's the Virginia Tech guy.
Okay.
He's got some twitch to him, man.
He does?
He's a little shifty. He's
All right.
Smaller. He can move a little bit, though. I didn't know he was coming out, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, this running back class in 2025, again, I said it earlier, even with Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen going back to Penn State, it is insanely deep. How are we doing on questions there, Chip?
Let's see.
We're about to do segment number 3, and then our 4th segment is a mailbag, but we need questions
Yeah, we need some more questions. We
in
got a
order
few.
for us to do that mailbag.
Got a few, but we need some more, so use that hashtag 49ers. You can ask more than one question as well if you've already asked one. Harold in here already asked two. So get those questions in there, but make sure you use the hashtag in your comment or else I cannot see it.
Steven Sierra saying, what's up, Chase? What's up, Steven? Getting ready for segment number 3. 300 people watching. Continue to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. Can we release Moody, or is it about his contract? I don't think it's really about his contract. Like, third-round picks don't make a ton of cash, but I think they want to justify him being a third-round pick.
Mamba, Joji getting some questions in. Good stuff.
All right. Hashtag 49ers or Super Chat. Coming up next, 49ers mock draft roundup. We're talking free agency. We're talking draft because the offseason is here. Hey there, welcome into the show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. What I want to do, throughout this week here on the channel, we've been talking coaching hirings, coaching interviews, free agent targets, talking about the Niners' own free agents, which players should stay, which players should go. I also want to continue to talk about the draft because we've been doing that over the last couple of weeks, and you've responded well to it because those videos have been doing well. So I want to do a Niners mock draft roundup and take a look at some prospects and players who San Francisco could take with the 11th overall pick, but also their second-round pick as well. If you want more Niners draft coverage, by the way, and you like what you see here on today's show or on this channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're really closing in on 155,000 subs, so lock us in and subscribe today. Our show made possible today thanks to our friends at Game Time, by the way, the best app in the ticketing marketplace. And look, I talk sports for a living. I love going to sporting events. It's so unique because a reason I fell in love with sports, when you go to a game, you don't know or care who's around you. Their race, creed, religion, sexual, political preferences. If your team scores a touchdown, you're dapping them up, you're giving them a hug, you're giving them a high five. The atmosphere is unbelievable. And you can also put together great memories with people who you really care about. It's part of the great reason why I love going to sporting events, and you do as well. So if you want to be a part of that movement, be a part of that vibe, download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. But also, I talk sports for a living, and sometimes I like to do things other than sports. I like to go to concerts. I like to go to comedy shows. I'll hit up a Blue Man Group show from time to time. I like the performing arts. All of those tickets available within the Game Time app as well. You want to go to a Golden State Warriors game? Check. You want to go to a San Jose Sharks game? You can do that. San Francisco Giants game coming up, a Niners game for next year. Game Time has it all. They have flash deals and zone deals. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And thanks to Game Time Picks, curation makes it easier to find the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed, so you get the best price point and the best vantage point, and you don't have to go through thousands and thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Download the app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS. Terms apply, first purchase only, to get $20 off. All right, Niners mock draft time. And I want to do a roundup with some mock drafts that I saw that I found to be interesting. Dane Brugler is an NFL draft analyst for The Athletic. I think he's the best in the business. His scouting profiles that he puts together for what he calls the Beast, which is a guide with hundreds of prospects in the lead up to the draft, is so in-depth, so advanced, so nuanced, and so detail-oriented. And so when he comes out with mock drafts, I'm always interested in seeing what he has to say because he knows ball and he knows these prospects better than anybody out there. And in his mock draft, which was released on Wednesday, he had the Niners selecting Missouri offensive tackle Armand Membu with the 11th overall pick. And here's the scouting breakdown and the reasoning behind the selection. Based on the players expected to be available in this range, there is a decent chance the Niners use this pick to address the trenches, either on the offensive or defensive line. Membu is incredibly underrated, but he plays with exceptional control, athleticism, and finish. He would give San Francisco an ascending player with guard tackle versatility. In scouting Membu, 6'3", 314 pounds. He's not as tall as you might want an offensive tackle to be, but he does have long arms. And so if you want him to play tackle, I think he can. If you want him to play guard, he can do that as well. But as we know, the Niners need a tackle. But the Niners' thought process here could be, we'll play him at right guard. We'll move Dominic Pooney to left guard. We upgrade at left guard in doing that. We upgrade at right guard, kind of. You get better at center, and then maybe you run it back with Colton McKivitz, and then you improve at left guard, you improve at center. You draft him to play right guard. That could be a win, or he just replaces Colton McKivitz, whose final year of his contract is not guaranteed. So that's kind of the thought process there potentially. Membu, fluid athlete in space. He can really climb to that second level. Kyle Shanahan's going to ask his offensive lineman to do that quite frequently. He has good length and versatility. He's a good run blocker. Have to be able to run block in this system. He can struggle at times against speed rushers. He can get uprooted versus power. His arm length meets the offensive tackle standards, and the Niners like offensive linemen and offensive tackles with long arms. He has good hands and good feet, and he really has some speed off the ball. My issue with him, is he a guard or is he a tackle? The testing numbers could go a long way in determining that. I kind of want a player like Kelvin Banks out of Texas, who you know is going to be able to play offensive tackle, and he's not a tweener. And we know, I've been saying this too, the Niners need to address the offensive line this season. I'm done with watching bad offensive line play. I'm tired of seeing offensive linemen get pushed into Brock Purdy's lap. In 2024, they couldn't run block, they couldn't pass block. You have to make that more of a point of emphasis. I think about the teams that are still alive in the NFL playoffs, in particular in the NFC. Philadelphia Eagles, best offensive line in football. Detroit Lions, second best offensive line in football. Kansas City Chiefs, they've invested into the offensive line. Baltimore Ravens, they have. Bills, they have. Commanders, better along the offensive line. There's a theme for the teams that are still alive. Good offensive line play. As for Dane Brugler's second-round pick, this is a player who I do like, and my guy Larry Krueger, host of the Krug Show, I go on his show and his YouTube channel every single Friday. He has a scouting background when he was scouting in professional football. He really likes Walter Nolan, the Ole Miss defensive tackle. He is 6'3", 305 pounds, a Texas A&M transfer. In the pre-draft process at the Combine, he could run a sub-5 in the 40-yard dash at 305 pounds. Freaky fast. Overall Pro Football Focus grade this year of 88.3. He had 6 sacks and 23 hurries according to PFF. Really explosive first step, allowing him to win his matchups against slower plotting interior offensive linemen, and then he can make plays and cause havoc in the backfield. He has good bend for a defensive tackle, changes direction really fast, quick diagnosing skills, especially on some screens. The weakness to him, sometimes he can rely on his power moves too much, and sometimes power moves don't work for young players at the NFL level. And then in ESPN's mock draft, they have the Niners going with Texas A&M defensive lineman Shamar Stewart in the first round with pick number 11. He is a very gifted player along the defensive line. And here's what ESPN had to say on Shamar Stewart to San Francisco. The 49ers have to replenish their defensive line, which has been the driving force for much of their success during the Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch era. Stewart is a toolsy defensive lineman who is likely to see his stock skyrocket at pre-draft events because of his athletic skills and him being 6'6", 290 pounds. he has been more potential than production to date, as he's never had more than 1.5 sacks in a season. But Stewart's 2.42 second average time to first pressure is the best among all defensive linemen in the FBS, which shows that he just needs to learn how to finish his pressures with sacks. I will say this. I don't really love taking chances on athletes this early in the first round just based on their potential. I kind of want to bring in a player who you know is going to be able to impact games, and their production at the college level backs that up. The Niners have missed on way too many first-round picks under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. They can't afford to miss on another one. And what's the point in taking a project player when you need that player to perform for you in 2025? So Walter Nolan, I like it. I'd probably go Kelvin Banks, Texas offensive tackle, instead of Membu, and I wouldn't go Shamar Stewart, but we're early in this process. A lot going to change until April's NFL draft, and we're going to continue to cover it all things Niners, right here on the show. Mamba G, 33K. Keep up the great work, guys. Love the show. Hey, appreciate that. Salute to you. All right, we're going to round out with the mailbag here. If we have enough questions, use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat to get those questions answered here on the show. Chip, how many questions we got?
Let's see. How did y'all do? Oh, we did good. Black Mask getting in there, Spunky Guy. Yeah, we got a solid amount.
Dope.
We got enough.
All right, we can do a mailbag coming up.
Never too late, though. If you didn't get one in, you can still get one in. And if you send in a super chat, you're guaranteed to get your question answered. We can't always answer every single question. And if you want your question answered at the start of the show, you send in a super chat, guaranteed to be in there. Otherwise, use hashtag 49ers. Do my best to get you on there. Ask multiple if you want, because if someone asks the same question as you, they're not going to show the same question twice. So ask multiple different ones if you want.
Sugar Shane's with me. He said no to potential athletes. Yeah, I'm with you. And he pointed out Solomon Thomas and Trey Lance. Good points. All right, mailbag coming up. We'll round out the show with that. Segment number 4. About to get it underway. Good to see some people getting those questions in as well. Wet Noodle, Dusty Gaming, Samuel Crosby, Joji, thanks for contributing. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr., and on the docket for today's show, we're going to open up the floor, and we're going to do a mailbag. Huge offseason is coming up for this football team. It's really already well underway. And a lot of people have questions as for the direction of this football team. They also have some opinions and hot takes for what this team could and should do to get back to playoff contention in 2025. So I'm looking forward to seeing what all of the real ones come up with. A guy who's been watching the show for a very long time is Chua Lore. Do you think that Brock Purdy will hold out? I do not think that Brock Purdy will hold out. And I don't think it gets to a situation where Brock Purdy holds out. And if it does get to a point where Purdy holds out, that is a disaster for San Francisco. You can deal with a Brandon Ayuk holdout, a Trent Williams holdout, a Deebo Samuel holdout, a Nick Bosa holdout, because there are other players who can step into those roles and practice for you, play in preseason games for you, and if that holdout carries over into the season, you can get by without having those players for a game or two. Limited sample size, of course, because those players who I mentioned are very special. But if you don't have your quarterback, football is such a timing, rhythm-based, synchronized sport where if you don't have your marquee player, your quarterback who drives the ship, and you're just trotting out backups for all of training camp and in the preseason, you expect to just hit the ground running week 1 when you're going to have playoff and Super Bowl aspirations? It cannot happen. Brock Purdy's also a team captain. And I get that Brock Purdy really wants to get paid. And I think that Brock Purdy will get paid. I think the Niners pay him early in the process so they don't have to worry about any contract drama. I think the whole Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey thing, it wore them out a little bit, and the Niners want to get this deal done early to get their quarterback in camp, to get this team on the right page. Because this team in 2024, they were not on the right page offensively. They were not synchronized all season long, and it showed, and that's a big reason why they never found their groove, and they finished 6-11. Dusty Gaming. Would Banks or Campbell be available by pick 11? So, good question here. And you're talking about the Texas offensive tackle, Kelvin Banks, who is a really good player for the Longhorns, and Will Campbell, the LSU offensive tackle. It really all comes down to how many quarterbacks go in front of the Niners. Unfortunately for San Francisco, this is a very thin quarterback class. You would have hoped that this quarterback class would be deep, because then you could have an excellent player fall in your lap. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, I think, are the only quarterbacks who are worthy of going inside the top 10. And so you won't see an Abdul Carter fall to you. You won't see a Mason Graham fall to you. You could see a Kelvin Banks. You could see a Will Campbell, and they could be your starting offensive tackles for the future. Banks is a scheme fit. Will Campbell, really good player as well, running with that high-octane LSU offense. And so those are two players I've been scouting. Those are two players to keep tabs on as well. Joe G. Cam Scadaboo in the later rounds, a possibility. I don't think he lasts until the later rounds. I think that he could be a second, third, or fourth round pick. And I'm interested in him as a Niner player. He has NorCal ties. He went to Sacramento State, transferred to Arizona State. His numbers this year were so good. Running it, pass catching, and in that college football playoff game against Texas, he was carving up a Longhorns team that has NFL dudes all across the field, running it with physicality, has really good balance, really good speed for his size. He was catching the ball out of the backfield. Shoot, he even threw a touchdown pass. So a really good athlete who I think would be a good scheme fit for Kyle Shanahan. I think Shanahan would enjoy using him as a weapon, and I think that he could serve as a running back, fullback hybrid. So maybe get rid of Kyle Juszczyk, drafts Cam Scadaboo, and you save some coin right there. My guy, Black Mask. Can we release Jake Moody, or is it about his contract? I'll take a look at Jake Moody's contract here. As a third-round pick, it's not that high. He has a 2025 cap hit of $1.4 million. He's going to make $1.2 million in cash. His career earnings so far, 2.5. And so if you were to cut him, it's not like you're losing a bunch of money. I think the Niners might be holding on to him because they used a third-round pick on him, and they don't want to admit that they failed with that selection, but they should learn their lesson. Never draft a kicker in the third round. What's your level of confidence in the Niners to get it right this offseason? Meaning they make the right moves in free agency, right selections in the draft to get back into the playoffs next year. Scale it for me from 1 to 100. Our sponsor for today's Niners Report, our friends at Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app in the game, more than 10 million active members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings, and right now, when you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Also, when you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. You can withdraw your winnings all within the app as well. So run your game with Prize Picks. Our lineup that we like for the national championship on Monday: Will Howard, more than a half passing yard. Riley Leonard, less than 167.5 passing yards. Jeremiah Smith, less than 80.5 receiving yards. Pick two or more players, choose more or less on their projected stats. Prize Picks, run your game. prizepicks.com/CLNS. We continue to move forward with our mailbag here on the show, and we go to Zy TV. What free agents do you feel would fit most, salary-wise and scheme-wise? So my probably number one free agent target for the Niners is Drew Dahlman, the center for the Atlanta Falcons. Raheem Morris brought in a bunch of Sean McVay Rams guys to run that offense. Zach Robinson was the OC. He's a Sean McVay understudy. And so that's very similar, the concepts, to what Kyle Shanahan likes to do. And so I think that Drew Dahlman is a good scheme fit, really good player. The Niners have paid centers in free agency before under Shanahan. They gave Weston Richburg a 5-year, $47.5 million contract. They brought in Alex Mack, and they invested in him. And so I think Kyle Shanahan knows that when we have a good center, that's when we're at our best. That's my favorite free agent target for San Francisco. I think you draft a left guard. I think you draft a right tackle. I think you draft a defensive tackle and edge, and then you address some of those other areas in free agency. But that's my number one player right there for San Francisco. Zach Wilson, too, as a backup quarterback. That's what I want the Niners to do. Sugar Shane, $5. The draft is offensive line deep, especially along the interior offensive line. Trade back for a late first, extra second, and a fourth, or draft a defensive lineman at number 11. Your thoughts? So I tweeted this out over the weekend, and it went viral for whatever reason. Got 200,000 views on X, but I had said, if I'm the Niners, I think about trading out of 11 to the middle portion of the first round, right? And you get an offensive lineman in the teens or 20s, and then you find a way to get into the late 20s, early 30s, and you get that offensive lineman first, and then you got Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State. Jack Sawyer is a good player who I would take late in the first round, borderline second round guy, but there you get creative. You move out of 11, you get an offensive lineman, and you get a defensive lineman, and that's how you start rebuilding the trenches for this football team. So something like that. Appreciate that, Shane. Ernesto Ojeda. Is Brandon Ayuk still considered a number one wide receiver when he's able to return from his injury? He's the best wide receiver on the Niners. We'll see if he's able to come back healthy. That was a really brutal knee injury. There were multiple ligaments torn and a lot of damage in there. Ayuk is a player who's relied on cutting, speed, explosion, short area quickness, that wiggle to gain separation, both with his routes coming out of breaks, but also at the line. And so even if that is impacted a little bit, I think it impacts his game, and it impacts what he's able to do. So this Niners receiving core, I think they're in a good spot for next year. Looks like they're going to retain Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing. That's 5 right there. It's not bad. Bryce, do you feel like if we get a solid defensive coordinator, half as many injuries as last year, we have an even better shot at winning it all than last year, about a 90 out of 100 for this offseason? Okay, so your confidence scale out of 100 is 90. I asked that question on the show. So thanks for responding to that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Niners are to a point where they need to tear it down and rebuild. I think they need to reset, retool a little bit. And if they get a solid defensive coordinator and they improve on defense, and that defensive coordinator can help San Francisco develop players, maximize players, tidy up coverages, not have as many scheme breakdowns, not have as many missed tackles, not have as many lapses, and this offense plays better and gets healthier next year, offense improves, defense improves, you win some of those close games that you lost because you're better, strength of schedule is 32nd among 32 teams, yeah, your chances of getting back to the playoffs, I think, are pretty good. Spunky Guy, last question. Do you think Joey Bosa would be a good fit with his brother, Nick Bosa? Yes, but the issue with Joey Bosa, he's been injured so much. And so the Chargers might cut him free. And I know that Joey and Nick would love to play with one another. And yes, the Niners have a need for another edge rusher. It'd be a cool story. I just worry about the injuries to Joey. And then you worry about the injuries a little bit to Nick Bosa. Be sure to hit that sub button. Daily and year-round coverage of the Niners. Turn on your notifications. Therefore, anytime we go live, anytime we push out a show, you will be notified. And we leave you with this. Which free agents do you want the Niners to bring back? Let me know down in the comments section right now. All right, a great live show today. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. 4 segments down. John Wallace, Black Mask, all in the building. Myself and Chip about to sign off. Great coverage coming up over the next couple of days. And I'll be on with Larry Krueger on Friday, so be on the lookout for that. Put some of those videos up on my channel as well. And I'm going live tonight on the 49ers Collective alongside Grant Cohn, Jesse Naylor, Ashley Ariana. That'll happen at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific on the 49ers Collective for our roundtable. So be sure to check that out as well.